All right, so welcome everyone. It's good to see you today. Now, as this week's topic is dealing with tough situations or hardship, today we'll discuss the attitude of worrying a little bit. Probably all of you have worried at some point in your lives. You all know what it is like to worry, to envision possible future outcomes that are dreadful, terrible, horrible. Basically making your own kind of little horror movies in your head and watching them, buying into them, getting lost in them. Just like we get lost in movies when we watch them in the cinema. So in a similar way, some people tend to do that a lot, kind of focusing on what might go wrong, or just totally crazy scenarios that have absolutely nothing to do with reality, just playing them through in your head. See, it's almost like you want to see how that feels like. How would it be like if I was in that situation? Of course, it feels terrible. The problem is we take these imagined scenarios in our head as a real possibility. It's almost like that is definitely going to happen. And so that helps us then to buy into the worrying mind. We give it truth. We buy into it. We are invested in these thoughts. They feel like real things. It doesn't feel like, well, it's just a thought. Who cares? Like sometimes you're shocked in a movie and then suddenly you realize, it's just a movie. It's all good. I'm in a room, I'm safe. Or you have a bad dream and you wake up from the bad dream and it's like, okay. Fortunately, it was just only a bad dream. We can wake up from worrying like this in the same way, but it takes some reflection. And so the first kind of reflection is a reflection of the possibilities that actually are there. So you bring your mind to the facts that anything could happen. And that we simply don't know what's going to happen. We don't know. And we also don't know whether what's going to happen is really good or bad. Probably some of you know this story of the Chinese horse farmer. It's one of my favorite stories. For those of you who don't know it yet, I will tell it real quick. So there's this old Chinese horse farmer. He lives with his son on his farm, and they have a horse, a beautiful white stallion. And one day the son forgets to close the corral, and the stallion just runs out into the wild. He just runs away. And all the villagers, they hear of this, and they come to the old man and say, we are so sorry to hear of these news that you've lost your best horse, you've lost your only horse, that's so bad. And the old man says, well, bad, good, who knows? And so everyone carries on, and one day the son sits outside on the porch, he plays his flute, and he hears this galloping coming from the forest in the distance. There's this sound of the hoofs of the horse. And so he stops playing the flute and he looks to the forest, and there, the white stallion comes back. It's running towards the corral, but not alone. Behind it there are 8 wild horses. And so in disbelief, the son goes to the corral, he opens the gate, and like a miracle, they all follow the white stallion back into the corral. Son closes the gate. Wow, amazing. And all the villagers, of course, they come and they say, wow, you're so lucky. Who would have thought that this is going to happen, right? Wow, this is so good. And the old man says, well, good, bad, who knows? And a week passes, and both father and son, they start to tame the new horses. And there's one particularly wild horse there, and that kicks the son into the lower back, shattering his spine. Son ends up paralyzed. He will never walk again. Tied to a wheelchair for the rest of his life. And all the villagers come again and say, oh no, who would have thought? This is so bad. If the horses wouldn't have come back, you wouldn't have to tame them, and then this now, oh my God. And the old man says, well, bad, good, who knows? And the month passes, and the soldiers come into the village, looking for strong young men to go to war. And all the villagers' families lose their sons to go to war, and are really, really sad. And guess who can stay with his dad? The paralyzed son. And so all the villagers come and say, you know how lucky you are? Your son can stay with you. We've lost all our sons to war. You know how that feels like? And you can keep your son with you. This is so good. And the old man says, good, bad, who knows? So most of us are continuously thinking like the villagers do. Thoughts are like those villagers. They say, this is great. Man, this is going to be awesome. Or, if it's worrying, they say, oh my God, this is going to kill you. This is your end. Oh my God. And so you can reply to those thoughts, well, good, bad, who knows? How many times in your life did you already think like things were really good? And it turns out, oh no, you know. Like, oh honey, I love you forever after. 6 months later, the divorce. Who would have thought, you know? Yeah, you have a car accident. Oh no, everything looks really bad. You have to go to hospital. And it's in the hospital that you get to know your future husband. He's your nurse. Wow, who would have thought? You know, so this is some logic that you can give your worries. You can tell your worries, well, look guys, I understand that you want to worry, but isn't it a fact that you really don't know what's going to happen and whether it's good or bad? Because everything good contains the bad, and everything bad contains the good. Have you ever seen the Chinese pictogram of the yin-yang symbol? And so the white contains the seed of the black. The black contains the seed of the white. It points in a very simplistic way to exactly what I just said. There is no ultimate good or ultimate bad. But there is just change. So the good changes into the bad, and the bad changes into the good. Problems turn into solutions. Solution turns into the next problem. You can observe that really nicely with your own sitting posture right now. You have a problem, so you move. Solution. And at the same time, it creates the next problem, doesn't it? How is it with the iPhone series? First iPhone is the solution. Until second iPhone comes, then the first iPhone turns into problem. Then second iPhone, the solution. And so that goes on like that. And this goes on indefinitely. So which one is really the good iPhone? Which one is really the bad one? So a really funny little like documentary where someone went out onto the street selling people the iPhone 1 as the newest model of the iPhone that just came out, you know. And people bought into it. It's like, wow, it's much faster. Yeah. So what's really good and what's really bad? Is it really going to be bad? Is it really going to be good? We don't know, and that takes a lot of power out of this worrying mind already. Such reflection. This is wise reflection. Good contemplation. Challenge your worries a little bit. They say, you are going to fail. Okay. Is that going to be good or bad? Is failure not part of life? Is there anyone in this world who has never failed?
Sorry,
Yes.
excuse me.
Yes.
Is this a translator?
Who?
Yeah.
Is there someone translating?
Well, somebody competing with you.
Ah,
Translating.
Okay, yeah, probably.
It's
It's Vincent. Yeah, you're disrupting the session, man. How dare you? Okay.
No, seriously. Go the German one.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah, it's you again, huh? Yeah. There you go. All right.
Sorry.
So, bringing our attention to the negative mindset, the worrying mindset, is a bit like that. For example, you can listen to me and bring all your attention here, but your attention...
If I know it's a translator, I can, but if I think it's somebody just talking...
Exactly. So your mind gives you a reason why you cannot focus on this.
Exactly.
And so that's what the mind does.
If you'd mentioned that there was a translator in the room,
Yes.
then I wouldn't have lost focus.
Ah, okay.
Yeah.
All right. So where we put our attention is our freedom. Our attention is that one thing that we can control. I can choose what I focus on. If I'm aware that my attention goes to something I dislike, do I have to dwell there? Or could I make a choice? Say, okay, bringing my attention to this makes me uncomfortable. So why do I bring it there? So we can bring, for example, with worrying, right? If you have a worrying mindset, then why do we dwell on the possible negative outcomes? When you could equally dwell on the positive outcomes. You could envision like super nice scenarios. Like instead of a horror movie, you create a love movie. A comedy. This is up to you, right? You could choose what kind of movies you create. That is a choice. But it's only a choice if you wake up. Otherwise, we just automatically repeat habit patterns. It's like push the button, the machine runs. Different buttons, different machines. Right? You see something, uh-oh, that's possible danger. So your mind goes into, for example, my wife, she really is very afraid of snakes. So when she sees a snake, she sees every snake. It's incredible. It's this worrying mindset that makes her look constantly. It's like scanning for snakes. And she spots like tiny snakes that are like 100 meters away, somewhere up in the trees. She's like, Tobi, snake! And I'm like, where? Where is it? She's up there. And I see this tiny little snake that's in the tree up there. She spots it from very, very far away. So some minds, they're very trained to go to these things. And it happens even without us knowing it. So your mind might habitually go to places that feel really bad. Like worrying about possible problems. The end of the world, World War III, let's all invest in gold. I've already built an underground bunker. I'm ready. These kind of things. So we go through this scenario then thinking that this will make me safe. This will really help me, but nothing has happened. And this can go into a huge amount of energy that is spent on what feels really negative. Here's another logical reasoning. If you are feeling bad right now, what's your direction? Think of life as sitting in a car driving. You drive down the road, and you can worry about what's going to happen in 100 meters. Or what happened 100 meters ago. Is your power in 100 meters? Or 100 meters ago? Is there anything you can do about 100 meters from now? Is this a field of action for you? No, right? You can't do anything about in 10 minutes. Because it's not there, it's not real. The only thing we actually can do something about is steering right now. And if you steer to the left, you have changed your direction in life. If you steer to the right, you have changed your direction in life. And where you are steering depends on where your attention is. So if your attention dwells with the problem and the horror scenarios, guess where you're steering? How you're steering? Your steering is based on fear. So what's the direction that you take? It's a fearful direction. Or an angry direction. Or a happy direction. A kind direction. Up to you. But your power is right now. Your steering power is now. So instead of worrying about steering in 100 meters, steer now. Because our choice to deal with problems in life is always that choice. How do I react to that? How do I respond to that? How do I deal with this right now? Because nobody, and that's the third reflection, can actually avoid having problems in their life. Nobody. We will all have problems. We will all experience illness, pain, separation, death. All that. There's no way to get out of it. People will blame you. People will say negative things about you. There's nothing you can do about it. You can't possibly control the entire world so that everyone is nice to you. Impossible. There's a saying from an Indian sage. His name is Shantideva. I think he was living in the 12th century or so. He said, you can't possibly wrap the entire world in leather so that you don't step in thorns. But you can wrap your own feet and it has the same effect. Does that make sense? So it means, why busy trying to change everything around yourself but yourself? And this is our choice. The way we respond to circumstances and events, including worries. That is a choice. But it is only a choice if there's mindfulness. If we clearly recognize what is going on right now inside of me. Whoa. So that's my current state. So that's my direction. How can I change it? And then if you have some skills, you can change it. But all starts with mindfulness. It starts with that first moment of actually waking up. Oh, that's what's going on. I'm suffering. And that's an option. It's optional. I wouldn't have to suffer. I suffer because I don't know how not to suffer. So we let go. We learn to let go, and that's the whole path of meditation, right? So these are the first things that you can reflect on when dealing with worries. The possibilities are endless, good, bad, who knows? The possibilities of what the outcome. Why focus on the negative when you could equally focus on the positive? Because you don't know. Right? So the second point of dealing with worries is simply truth. And truth here refers to what is as it is. That requires a bit of mindfulness. It requires stability in your mind. So you need to train for a little while. You need to train your mind. You need to sit down and actually still it. So you can use it. You're not used by it. You can use your mind. You can actually learn to give your thoughts, your worrying thoughts, space. And observe them for what they really are, which is just thinking. So you see thinking as just thinking. Because that's what it is. It is thinking. As soon as you can see thinking like that, it dissolves. It doesn't have any power anymore. The example that is given for that very often is the famous snake in the dawn example. You walk along a river, it's dawn. You see a snake, alarm bells go off, you're scared. So what do? You freeze. The snake in front of you freezes too. Both of you are frozen, scared. And you stand there maybe 3 minutes, 4, 5 minutes, 10 minutes. Still no one moves. So after a while of standing there paralyzed, you start going through your possibilities. Will I stand here for the rest of my life paralyzed, or will I do something about it? I have to go this way, so let me see. So you take a little step closer towards the snake to have a better look at it, to see it clearly. And as you take a few more steps, you suddenly see it's a rope, or it's a stick. Now you see truth. That's the example that's given. If you see your thoughts and you don't really look, it looks very scary. You don't know it's just a movie in your head that is not real. You don't know that. You're in the movie with emotional background music. It's as dramatic as it could get. And then I encourage you, well, look at what's really happening right now. You're thinking. You're in your bed thinking. You're sitting in the restaurant, you're eating, and your head goes through scenarios. That's what's happening. Wake up to it. There's nothing to it at all. That is truth. You see truth? You're not scared of your own thoughts anymore. How funny is that actually, huh? We're scared of our own thoughts. We're freaking ourselves out. It's funny. If you can look through that, wow, you can relax. To a great extent, actually. It's liberating. It's like, oh, there's no snake. Oh, nice. I was scared of my own thoughts, which I produced. I produced them and then I got scared of them. Really bring it to mind. That's exactly what I'm doing right now. I'm scaring myself like this. I'm telling myself a story and then I get scared. It's your own private cinema. You're the producer and you're the observer, the watcher. Very funny. But it requires some stability in your mind. You need to have some practice for that. Otherwise, you just get swept away by movies because we're habituated to it. And it's very entertaining. Your mind is probably the most entertaining thing ever. Super entertaining. It gives you all these infinite variations of things that could happen to you. It's like super interactive. It's not just a movie that has nothing to do with you. It's just Superman that gets into trouble. No, it's me that possibly could get into trouble. So it's kind of the ultimate movie is in your mind, is in your head, and it's constantly running. And we're totally consumed by it mostly. There's no mindfulness. Well, the third possibility is then to release your thoughts, your worries into emptiness, or bring in different kind of thoughts. Right? This is about kind of the action part. You look through your thoughts. You see them for what they are. Let your mind think right now, anything. Apple, 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 whatever. Got a thought? Let it run. And now watch it. Let your mind think. Look right into the center of that thought. What do you find? Any thought, scary, not scary, whatever. Look into the center of it. What do you find? Do you find anything real, substantial there? Or does it dissolve? The more you look, the more it dissolves. Is that the case? Very good. If that's the case, your looking is proper. It's correct looking. If you're looking from fear, oh, it's a scary thought. it'll get bigger as you look at it. So that can show you that what you're looking from is not the right state. It's not awareness. It's fear looking at fearful thoughts. You're looking through the glasses of fear. That's why it gets bigger. Same with happy thoughts. You're looking through the glasses of happiness. The happy thoughts get bigger. The happy feelings get bigger. Because you pay attention to it. You're invested in it. But if you're not invested in it, you just look at it for what it is. It dissolves. And that's what you want to train. Again and again, look right at your thoughts. The Tibetan master gives a beautiful example of, if you throw a stick at a dog, the dog runs to get the stick and brings it back to you. Then you throw it again and so forth. Now if you throw a stick at a lion, you probably throw it only once. Or maybe the lion doesn't care. You just throw a stick and the lion knows his position, so he will just look at you and go, psst. Silly little human, you know. If you just knew my power, you wouldn't throw. But the lion is so confident in his strength, in his power, he doesn't even need to do anything. But if he does something, it's devastating. So what are you? Your thoughts are constantly throwing sticks at you. Are you a dog or are you a lion? If you're a lion, you look. What is it that people say, right? You look your fear right in the eyes. You face your fears. You face your worries head on. And you tell them, all right, now go ahead and worry as much as you want. I will watch. And then you look and see what happens. Give your mind total permission to worry. And suddenly you realize, wow, it has no power at all. That's the position of a lion. Very powerful. That's one way. The other way is, then you release your thought into emptiness and build from that emptiness a more constructive thought set. Something that's a bit more better, creative, nice. Thoughts that are serving yourself and others, rather than thoughts that are destructive and pointless. Yeah. So these are a few ways that come to mind of dealing with worries. They're all very powerful, but you really need to look. There's no way around looking. Distracting yourself doesn't help. Your worries will come back. They will not stop. So many people, they choose distraction. Let's just forget about it. Let's just look elsewhere. Let's just get drunk. Let's just do this. Let's just do that. It doesn't really help. It doesn't really solve the problem. What solves the problem is comprehending the problem thoroughly. That solves it. You have to go the steps towards the snake. Yes, it's scary, but it's very rewarding. If you do it often enough, it's ultimately rewarding. Okay? So that's all that comes to mind for today. Are there any questions?